Hi everyone, it's Braylon and welcome back to my channel. If you're new to my channel, I'm about to be a 5th year teacher. That is insane to me. I'm teaching this upcoming year a special ed self-contained classroom that has 1st, 2nd, and 4th graders in it. That's just the way it shook out. And I'm really excited. I have a lot of the same students that I had last year, which is really helpful for me, and a few new ones. So it is actually the morning. It is Thursday morning, and I woke up and I just realized, you know what, I think I want to do a little bit of prep. I tend to not do a ton of prep in the summer because I kind of make sure I do a lot at the end of the school year, and then I do some in August. But there are a few things that I kind of want to get started with, and I have essentially the whole day to work on them. So I thought, why not take you guys along and show you how I start off my school year. Hold on, I gotta show you my breakfast. I have a beautiful coffee in my mug, and I just ordered myself an acai bowl. Mwah, so cute. So before I get started, I want to explain what I'm going to do. I'll show you what it looks like, but obviously once I start filling it in with student information, I won't be able to show it to you. Duh. So the first thing that I'm going to do is take a look at my caseload. I'm going to write out the whole caseload just on a list with their, their date of birth and their IEP due date, and then I'm gonna make a separate column for the month before that due date so I know when to start contacting people, whether it's a reeval or an initial. So those are some of the information, that's some of the information that I'm gonna start with. And that always helps me kind of set the tone and set the scene for what's coming next. So I printed this page and it's actually in my classroom, but I'm actually gonna write it out here on Google and then I'll print it again. But this is for my IEPs and I like to keep track of everything. So again, I only have 6 students this year. So I'm gonna go through each month, whether it's an annual or an initial, and mark those down really quick because that helps me a lot. So I'm on my phone, there's not much I can show you. But what I do, sorry it's so shaky, is I do the first name, the last name, date of birth, team chair, translation, permission, disability, English language learner, last IEP meeting, and review date, 3-year evaluation date. And so sorry that was so shaky. I just couldn't show you the personal information, but I make a whole Google spreadsheet, and what I'm going to do is kind of go through some of the students I already have. Great, it's already filled in. I'll just kind of update it. But the new students that I have, I go through and make sure, because we keep like folders in the building. So what are those folders? And then what are the students' names? What do they need? Do they need translation? Do they not need translation? And when should I send out information? When should I contact parents? I just kind of backtrack the date. So say their IEP meeting is supposed to happen on, October 20th. According to the IEP date, then I'll make a separate column. When should I contact parents? When should I schedule it? I'll schedule it for September 20th. So this will only take me a couple minutes and then I'll get to move on. So I'm going to fill in the IEPs on the other sheet, fill in the caseload matrix here, and just write out my caseload, the last name first name, and then just basic information about them. So this is kind of nice. Then I can eat my acai bowl while I work. So obviously can't show it to you, but we filled in the caseload and we're feeling pretty good. And I just printed it off so it's kind of over here off to the side. Some people can do everything digitally, but sometimes I just need stuff, physically, because the next thing that I'm going to work on are the snapshots for each of my students. And the reason I really the reason I love IEP at a glance or a snapshot of a student is because me personally, even though I only have 6 students, I do not have time to go back and reread, all the nitty-gritty details of the IEP. I want things to be right here. And for a lot of my students, they are doing inclusion this year, and so I can send this information directly to their new teacher, and that can be really helpful for them. But I understand if you're a first-year teacher, like this second part that I'm going to work on, you might not have this information. We keep everything in a, there's a certain IEP digital system we use. So this is going to take me a little bit more time, but what I'm going to do is, fill the student's name in and fill it all in. So let me show you what my snapshot looks like. Okay, here's my snapshot. So it has student names. It talks about the strengths, which usually if they're not my student, then another teacher has written that in. Weaknesses, behaviors, what services they need, placement. So they're always going to be with me, but some of them are going to do a little bit of inclusion. I just like to know their levels. So I do take data on their reading levels according to my school's specific guidelines, because if I'm sending this to an inclusion teacher, I want them to know, you know, according to our curriculum and data that all the other teachers are using. So that's kind of how I operate. This continues on. I will also write the IEP. Oh, sorry, I got a text. I'll also mark the IEP's dates, because even though I have it in the other system, it's good to have it here because I put these in the student binders and on their online file with me specifically. So the more times I have the date, the better. Date of birth, just an overview of their goals. I like to write it out. A lot of these IEPs I wrote myself, you know, because they're my returning students, but I take some time to write it out. Disability, native language, all that stuff. Then I kind of get a little bit deeper. I go into, if I'll put the inclusion teacher usually, I'll get into each specific level and then a little blurb, writing where they're at, math where they're at, spelling where they're at, and comments. I like to write this usually at the end of the school year, but because it was COVID times, it's not going to happen. So like you just saw, that first part took me like maybe 15 minutes. This part will probably take me an hour. And it is really important to have already done all of the assessments and the evaluations needed to understand this stuff. But I will say that, like, I understand that I'm a little bit lucky in that I have a lot of the same students. I know that doesn't always happen, especially in bigger districts. But luckily I do get to keep my students until I think 4th or 5th grade, so it kind of helps. But I am going to get 2 new students that I've never seen before, and from some teachers that I've never met before. And so if anything, I totally understand. Usually what I do is just kind of read through the IEP and get kind of a gist. You know, every teacher writes it different, and just try to fill in the best that I can. If there are gaps I don't know, then I wait, and then in, you know, September when I have a better gauge of who the child is, then I'll fill in the rest. But this really does help. And even for my paraprofessionals, for the speech, for whoever, you know, mid-year last year we switched to remote, and then I got a new physical therapist, different things like that. I was able to send this out, and it was really, really helpful. So if you are like, you know, looking to start something, you can always find these type of things for free. On Teachers Pay Teachers, there are so many, you know, just freebies for student snapshots. This is actually in the planner that I made on Teachers Pay Teachers, which you do not have to buy. You can make this yourself. I'm not even going to link it down below. But this has been super helpful for me. And then I'm doing it on Google. I'm doing this also on Google because then I keep those pages and put them in a Google Drive folder for each kid as well. So I like to have my documentation pretty clear, but like I was saying, it's not going to take me very long. So I'm going to work on this for a couple minutes, and then I'll show you the next step. Can't really show you all the pieces, but what I have is I have the IEP system on one part of the page and then my snapshot on the other, and then I'm using my laptop to kind of look through different school systems. So the IEP system, the snapshot, and the school specific data website has been really helpful for me. So it's kind of, I'm bouncing all over the place, but I've gotten through 5 out of the 6 kids, and it's been about 35 minutes. I'm almost finished with an episode of Survivor. That's how I gauge where I'm at. So I've been really obsessed with Survivor. I'm always obsessed with Survivor, but in the summer, it's just a good mindless show to watch as I do projects or clean my room or whatever. So I've seen most of the seasons, but I'm rewatching season 33, and I've been getting really into it. So setting it up. So I like to have it on my phone and prop it up. I also have my iPad here, which I need for something else. I don't know. Let me know how you usually watch your shows. Do you watch them on your iPad, on your computer? On my TV's over there, but I don't want to sit on the couch. I feel like I needed to be, you know, at my table. All right, we're back in the exact same position that we were before. I'm almost done with my coffee. We're getting further along, and I'm almost done with my bowl, which is great. I spent about 45 minutes finishing those snapshots. I feel really good about them. Put them in the folders. I think like when it gets to August, I'm just gonna share the folder with their inclusion teacher just that they have it. Oh, I forgot to say, and like gym, art, music, my school has dance, like different things like that. I'm also going to share with them because they see my students too. So that way they just have access to that information if they ever need it. Something else that I really work on is, actually, hold on, turn to me for a second. Okay, I forgot to explain this. Oh my gosh. See, when you're doing this without talking to a camera, it's so much easier. But I'm starting to like lose my mind because I'm talking to the camera. Okay, so let me explain my thought process. But hopefully this will make sense. So when I do academics, I either do a whole group or a small group. And then we always go in some sort of rotation. So my students are either working with me or they're working with the paraprofessionals. So I plan everything. And what I try to do is I try to group kids by either their academic level. If that's not possible, I try to group them by a common accommodation or modification. So let me give an example. For the whole group, that's different. You know, we might do science as kind of like a whole group where we'll do an exploration, watch a quick video, or fill out some sort of activity, right? I know that within that, if everyone's doing the same thing, I need to be mindful. Some kids need certain accommodations to support them as they are doing this work, right? Duh. Special Ed 101. And then sometimes in small groups, especially for me, I have such a mixed grade class with all different levels. I try to just go by accommodation. So a few students just need elevated boards or like slant boards, or some students need different pencil grips. So I want to know what the accommodations are that they need and which students need that thing. I have a whole video on the difference between accommodations and modifications if you're curious. And then when I think about the modifications, I also like to know what those are. So for example, here's a good example. I have a couple students who are in first and second grade. In first and second grade, they're reading, you know, different books, different stories. My students do such a great job of reading them, and so I tend to put the similar level, even though they're in different grades, I put them together in a small group. And sometimes the second grader does the first grade work, sometimes the first grader does the second grade general ed work, because they're working to just match with their peers. It's fine. But they both need modified work in order to meet that goal. So they might need you know, more visuals or a core board, or like core words, or they might need me to actually modify the text of this book or chapter book or picture book. And they might need different questions than what the general ed is getting. They might need to pre-read these books before they go into inclusion, stuff like that. So I want to know what modifications are most important, and I want to know which students need that thing. So let me show you the paper. So this is what we're working with. So I go through, after I've already made the snapshots, this will take me like 10 minutes to just kind of go through the most common accommodations and then who needs it, and then same with this. And this helps me so much and helps everybody so much to know exactly what students need. All right, we did it. Sorry, this is mostly me just explaining myself. I really wish I could show you, but obviously for privacy reasons, I don't want to show kids information. This is now, I've probably been at this, you know, the whole system for probably about like almost 2 hours. Not too bad. My coffee is finished. I sipped it slowly. I'm trying to think of what else I want to do before I kind of take a break. I think what I want to do is talk about my schedule. I'm kind of in the same boat as a lot of you guys. I know that my school talked about it in June with like the head people. What are they called? Principal. There it is. Oh my gosh. They're redoing a lot of the schedules. So I remember, you know, all of like the gym and art people, I was talking with them in the hallway on one of the last days, and they were saying that they're going to be redoing, you know, kind of when kindergarten has gym and when second grade has gym. So I don't get to keep the same schedule that I've had like this past year. So it's kind of hard for me to make a full schedule, but I think what I want to do is kind of write out what I want in my schedule on Google Drive, and then I'll be able to, like, you know, rearrange what it is. I know the hours of the day, you know, I know usually I want to keep, you know, 45 minutes for reading, 45 minutes for math, that kind of stuff. So I'm going to find an example schedule from last year so that I can show you that. Oh, perfect. I even wrote it. Martin's tentative schedule. How cute. All right. One thing is my school is an extended day school, which does exist at different places in Massachusetts, but it took me a little getting used to of like planning everything out, but I'm kind of grateful because it gives me a little bit more time to work on things, and also a little bit more downtime. Here is my tentative schedule. There's my head, sorry. That I just put together. So there are a lot of things that happen before the school day even starts. Kids are coming in and out, whatever. This is what my schedule was last year, relatively, or what I wanted it to be. So I'm just gonna kind of leave it like this, and then as things change, when I get more information from school, I'll just like rearrange everything. So I always have morning work binder time. I need to make those. That's on my list. Morning meeting. We talk about either words or letters because some of my students are working on letters, some are working on words. We always do read aloud. This was the time when I had specials. This was the time when I would have every day either gym or art or something adapted. And that was really great. One thing I hated was then we went right to recess because this was the only time it was available. And I was like, I'd rather have recess like earlier or much later, but you know, it is what it is. Then we had snack, then we had our reading group, then we would, oh my gosh, I can't scroll. There we go. Then we would, you know, play. Then we'd have lunch, transition, social skills, recess 2, math, science, recess 3, writing, IEP work, cash in, class jobs, dismissal. Awesome. Okay, that was my schedule. I really liked it a lot. I ended up having to add things when, you know, everybody came back in person and stuff like that. One thing that we did end up doing, me and the teacher next to me, is we started doing play rotation groups and then also academic rotation groups. So with our 2 classes combined, we would, you know, rotate and play academic games for like 20 minutes once a day, or we would, you know, build like with blocks or do a puzzle, just to kind of give ourselves another time in the day and a different break. One thing that's not on here is all of our lunch breaks and personal breaks, which is in my bigger schedule that I can't show you because it has kid and staff names on it. But I'll probably be working on my schedule a different day, and I'll try and take you all through that as I set it up and set up my planner and all of those things. So I hope that there was something throughout these past couple hours that was helpful. This is always where I start. You know, some people want to start with the planner and planning the first couple days. You know, you totally can, but if you don't know your students, it's a little harder. So I have taken the time to kind of make sure this is set up. At the end of the school year, you know, a couple months ago, I did kind of tentatively plan out my first 2 weeks of school and make sure I had, you know, a couple materials just in case it was so hectic I needed something to do. But now as I'm thinking about it, and I got new students added to my caseload that I wasn't expecting with different levels than I was expecting, I think I'm gonna tomorrow kind of go through my caseload one more time and go through my planner, the new planner that I'm going to use. I'll explain it to you guys, and then I think I'm going to plan my first 2 weeks and just make sure I have everything simplified and in one place, and just making sure it fits what I'm trying to do. It's really hard when you don't have your schedule yet to plan, but I'm going to plan the bigger chunks of the day, and then as we get closer to the start of the school year, I'll tweak if I have to, and just you know, add in, you know, filler activities and more fun activities when I kind of know the layout of the day. But for now, I feel really good. Like, just doing this alone, I feel so much more set up and prepared. Yeah, and it didn't really take us that long. So I don't know. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that if you do have a chance, you can email your principal and ask maybe if you can know the tentative list, or ask if you can now have access to a few things that might be really helpful for people to have. And you know, you can get started. Please don't go and buy stuff. Please don't go and start making a gabillion things. You don't know yet what you're gonna have, so don't worry about it. It'll happen later. But for now, you can, you know, organize your Google Drive and get some of these things knocked out of the way. But I want to enjoy the rest of my day. I'm going to keep watching Survivor, get a little snack, maybe take a nap. I don't know. We'll see. But you guys are the best, and I will see you in the next video. Bye, everybody.